We're counting down the top 10 ways President Trump has impacted immigration in his first 100 days. I'm your immigration attorney, Sekou Clarke. Let's get into it. And starting off at number 10, historic border closure. So, border crossings have been down to approximately 7,000 in March. When you compare to last year in 2024, border crossings were over 140,000. And also, guess what? There has been $70 million invested in new construction for the Texas border. And last but not least, there has been 10,000 troops at the border. There's now a designated military area. So the border has been winning. Coming in at number 9 is deportation, quotas, and raids. Since 2025, the Trump administration has removed over 65,000 people from the country and has detained over 66,000 people. And these are people who are a threat to the country. They are gang members, but they're also people who got caught up who don't have criminal history as well. So is it actually a win? Some may say yes, some may say no. ICE is now currently operating in churches, in schools, and in private areas. That has been a major shift in how ICE typically carries out their operations. In previous administrations, there were sanctuary cities, there were places that we know that ICE would not target, but guess what? Now under this administration, they are now in churches, they are now in homes, and they're now in private areas. So they're also getting out gangs, but guess what? Good people are also being caught up as well. Coming in at number 8, the parole programs have been terminated. So TPS, the temporary protected status, that has somewhat come to a pause where it has affected hundreds of thousands of Cubans, Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, Haitians, etc. that is now being fought in court. The humanitarian parole, that has also been shut down as well. The CBP One app has now been shut down, but it has actually been rebranded to where you can now self-deport. And last but not least, 985,000 people were asked to leave the country immediately. Coming in at number 7, the detention system expansion. Currently, there are 49,000 people currently detained, and that number will easily get to 100,000 due to the mandate of detaining and removing 1 million illegal immigrants from this country. There was a record $1 billion contract for a private detention center facility in New Jersey. That's a record. In addition, you also have military bases that have now been converted to detention center facilities, and we will see an increase of this because so many people are being detained and there's not enough space, which also led to a lot of catch and release in the first 100 days. And coming in at number 6, the end of birthright citizenship. So as you know, there was an executive order filed by President Trump to end birthright citizenship. So what does that mean? It means that if you were born in the US and your parents are either illegal immigrants or they do not have the proper resident or they're visitors, they cannot just automatically get United States citizenship. This has been blocked by the SCOTUS, by the Supreme Court, and there's actually a hearing coming up in May to decide if that infringes on the 14th Amendment of the US Constitution. And rounding in the top 5 is the student visa purge. In the first 100 days, over 1,500 student visas were canceled and or revoked. The students affected were those who had either minor criminal infractions or they were pro-Palestinian activists. But guess what? There were some backlashes and they're now working on resolving that, and it actually has been paused. So let's see how that goes. And coming in at number 4, the refugee program has been suspended. There has been 22,000 approved refugees that can no longer enter the country. They're also stranded abroad. 10,000 flights have been canceled for refugees that were on their way into the country that already were approved to enter the country. And there's a new standard. Admissions under the refugee status must serve national interest. And now we have the top 3. Coming in at number 3, ICE and the IRS, they're now sharing data. So in the first 100 days, IRS is now required to share information about immigrants. So sharing their information, meaning their taxpayer information, their date of birth, contact information, and most important for them, their location. And what did this lead to? This led to mass resignations at the IRS. And in other words, this creates, you guessed it, financial deportation. And it segues into number two. Number two is Social Security revocation. Under the Trump administration, in the first 100 days, migrants are moved to the death master file. What does that mean? Bank accounts frozen, benefits terminated, and jobs canceled. Social Security use the death master file for when somebody dies, so you can no longer use that Social Security number. So immigrants who have now gone out of status or they're now undocumented, it's like they're lights out. And coming in at number one is the English-only federal policy in the United States. A new executive order eliminates translation services that impacts 68 million non-speaking Americans. But of course, there has to be an honorable mention, and the honorable mention is the use of the Alien Enemies Act. Under the Alien Enemies Act, the president is able to detain, deport, or restrict the freedom of any male over the age of 14 from a hostile nation during war or invasion. And guess what? President Trump declared migrant crossings as an invasion. So guess what? The Enemies Alien Act was now applicable. And this primarily affected Venezuelans to the tune of 238 million Venezuelans were removed to the Sekou prison in El Salvador. No hearings, no due process. But guess what? Most, if not all of them, belong to that notorious gang. But there are a couple people that were caught up. Kelmar Garcia has been caught up in this, who was protected from removal of the United States, and he was removed due to his tattoos. It is alleged that he was incorrectly identified as a gang member. He was removed. However, the United States has now said that he needs to be sent back since he was protected from removal. So these are some of the issues that has now arisen in the first 100 days. Yes, the border is protected. People have been removed. President Trump's team is not on pace to 1 million per year. And that is your top 10 biggest immigration changes in the first 100 days of President Trump. We see border crossings significantly decline. We see student visas being yanked. We see green card holders are now fearful of traveling because of potential past criminal convictions. We now see ICE going into churches, homes, private institutions. We also see the TPS being canceled. And that rounds up my top 10 most important immigration changes that has occurred under President Trump in his first 100 days. How do you think he did?